We are recapping our segments on real estate and millionaire status in business. Stay tuned.
It's time for Tip Tuesdays with Dr. Shanna Grant.
Okay, so first we're going to discuss the real estate segment. So we had Miss Sheila Palomino and Miss LaJonda Casey to come in to give us some tips. Now we're just going to dive right in. So first we started discussing the benefits of having real estate, right? And so this involves, Sheila was mentioning to us that, well, you may buy and flip, and then buy and hold. Or you may buy and hold. Now let's kind of break down what buy and flip is. This means you buy real estate property and then you will renovate it. So you buy it at a low price, you renovate it and you sell it at a bigger value, right? And you make some profit. And once you make that profit, you will buy again, renovate, sell, make a bigger profit, right? So you can do that. You can also look into investing, right, to leave a retirement or a piece of property for your child, right? Because when you get a real estate property, you can pay this off, right? And your child may grow into it and have it as passive income. Now, it doesn't have to wait until your child gets into it. It can also be passive income for when you are here, right? Currently, right? A lot of times, like for instance, LaJonda said you can buy, right, and sit on that property and then you keep it and turn it over to your kids. Now, you also want to look into maybe if you want to buy a property long term and you can hold it. For us who are, let's say, entrepreneurs and we don't have, let's say, a 401k as a Resi access, you can use this property. Let's say you buy it now in 2020, 2021, 2022, and you're living and then you see 2040 comes around, right? You have a piece of property and you can use this property as your 401k. Because what? You have it, you've been sitting on it, and it has been appreciated in value. So you can either choose to sell it and have that as your retirement amount, or you can keep it as passive income, rent it out, Airbnb it out, and those type of things. We also touched a little bit on being cautious of sales lien tax property, right? Or tax sailing property rather, right? And so this is essentially when someone doesn't pay their taxes on their properties, right? The county may say, oh, I'm going to sell this at an auction. Now, in order for you to benefit from the tax sailing properties, you will have to, like LaJonda was mentioning, you may have to register, right? Depending on the states, you'll have to research to see different states do it differently. We were told by one of our guests that Alabama does not require you to register, but some states like Georgia or some counties rather require you to register before you go to the auctions, and you have to have what? Cash ready. But if you're in Alabama, you can just do it readily where you are online. No registration necessary, but make sure you do your research so you know what is required of you and what is expected of you. We also talked about Monopoly, right? We likened the game of Monopoly to this idea of how to use real estate to build wealth. If you remember, or if you ever played Monopoly, you have this game, you buy properties, right? And it's not just one. The winner of Monopoly has what? Listen to the game. The name of the game is Monopoly. You monopolize. You buy all the properties on the block and then you rent it out. It's the same thing we can do in real life. Buy multiple properties, rent it out. And so you can build wealth. That way, LaJonda mentioned, you can get an LLC. So if you get an LLC, if you're buying a lot of properties, even one, and you want to rent it out and whatever the case may be, you may want to consider getting an LLC so that you can manage your money that way as a business, getting write-offs and those type of things. But we're not going to get too much into business because that's our next segment. We also talked about if you, let's say, have a child that's going to college, you may want to buy a house with multiple rooms. You have a roommate, right? Or multiple roommates while your child is living in that house. And guess what? The roommates are paying the rent. Come on. We also discussed Airbnbs. Now, this is becoming very popular. And while it is popular, we caution you to discuss or to look at the different strategies that you'll need to look at. So you have to look at your location. You have to look at what are the rules in the different states or cities that you're wanting to get an Airbnb in. So these things are very essential when you're deciding, oh, I want to do an Airbnb, right? So you have to make sure the location is popping, for lack of better words, right? If the location is good enough where a lot of visitors are coming, then ideal. Yes, you want to do that. Right. And also, we want to say that real estate is not as hard as we think it is. Right. You can really get a property, but you will just have to have a good team. That's what Sheila was telling us. You need a good team, which is your lender and all that good stuff. Your lender, your real estate agent, and all of that. But you can watch the full video. Okay. Now we're going to dive into, come on now. Dr. Rightgood was giving us all the juice as it relates to business, right? She has multiple multi-million-dollar businesses. And so she was dropping a whole lot of nuggets for us. She explained that she had to go into survival mode. She had $125, a multitude of degrees, but she didn't have a job. And so what she did was she invested her $125 into a business after she did a SWOT analysis. She looked at her strengths or weaknesses and all those good stuff, and she leaned in on her strengths. Now, she was telling us that you do not need time to start a business. You need expertise, okay? And so you want to be able to answer questions. What are people asking you questions about a lot? Turn those answers into a business, right? So when we talked about this, we also likened it, right? We're talking about the toolkit, right? A toolkit for raising wealthy kids, our newest book. And so this is what we were diving into. So we asked Doc, right? We said, what is a quick, risk or not a risk, but a advice that you can give parents? And so she says, you need to develop a legacy mindset in your kids. This is important because you don't want to get to a point where you have made these millions, right? And then you give it to your kids and what? They splurge it, right? Doc shared with us some statistics, right? Out of every 100 children, right, who inherit $1 million, guess what? The money is done in the first year. Not the first year, but the first 10 years, right? We don't want that to be the case for us. So you need to educate your kids and help them to develop a legacy mindset. And that starts with our book where we talk about how to develop that mindset, right? We also looked at what you want to do is to give them explain to them really the value of money, working hard for it, right? As opposed to begging for it, right? You want to make sure that they're grateful for whatever it is that they get and that they're not just taking whatever they're inheriting and splurging it, squandering it, and those type of things, right? But this is what was really deep for us, right? Doc said, hire your kids in your business. Come on. Now, when you hire them in the business, she said that's a 3-for-1, right? You'll get a tax write-off. You're keeping the business in the family and you're preparing the person who is going to take over for you, right? Or from you. Yes, everything is in the book. You have to, come on. She talked about getting a trust. Yes, now we're not going to go too deep into trust because guess what? That's our next segment coming up. Make sure you stay tuned. Or if you're watching this or listening to this after the fact, you want to make sure you're staying tuned for the trust as it relates to your trust and what you need to do when it comes to the trust, right? We also talked about the business and tax preparation. Yes, come on, somebody. I feel like I'm preaching. But when you have a business, right, you get so many tax write-offs, right? But people don't know. We say people perish. People perish because of a lack of knowledge. And so we're giving you all the knowledge that is found in this book. Now, it's important that you learn the different things. Now, of course, you would want to talk to a valued or a licensed tax preparer to kind of know what the ins and out is. But we discuss a little bit on this in our book. Now, you want to make sure if you are starting a business, right, you want to make sure you're writing off the things like, for instance, you can write off your cell phone. If you have a house, use a room as your office, right? Because you're using that cell phone to make business calls. Now it's what? An expense for your business. You are using your home as an office. Guess what? That's an expense for your business, right? We also looked into passive income. And this is very important because this is where you're not having to do too much, right, to make some funds. You have active income where you have to go get a job and work, 9 to 5 and those type of things. And you have the passive incomes where your money is just being made for you. You're sleeping, you're making money. Now, different types of passive income. This is owning a book, right? Just write a book and it's selling for itself. You can get an Airbnb, right? You can do affiliate marketing, right? We talked about all of that good stuff. Now, this is important. This is what the wrap up was. Now, you don't have to be perfect to start a business, right? Just start the business, right? Making money does not mean you are not righteous. A lot of us Christians, we think, oh, if you have a lot of money, that means, oh, you're a heathen and these type of things. Maybe not necessarily, right? But that's not the case, okay? Entrepreneurship is about serving. And I love this. The way Doc put it, she said, you need to partner with God first. He is the best business partner. All right. Now that's a wrap up for us. So if you have missed it, you can go back and click the link below to see or learn more on what we did or what we discussed, and look out for our trust segment where we'll be discussing with attorney Holly Gurges on how to use a trust to protect your wealth. Because after you've gotten all this wealth, right, you built all this wealth, now we need to protect it. So stay tuned.